Hello.
Hi guys. 2024 is somehow over. Oh, it's so echoey in here. Oh, there's Egg. There's Egg. If we're lucky, she'll grace us with her presence at some point. Yeah, there she is. So 2024 is somehow over. And that means one thing. Your YouTube feeds are absolutely flooded with people telling you their best and their worst books of the year. So please allow me to be next up in that line. For me right now, it's currently January 1st. I did not take off my makeup from the party last night. So if you see glitter or eye bags, because I got like 4.5 hours of sleep, just pretend you don't see it. Just ignore it. For you, it's hopefully January 3rd. I'm hoping I can get this done and uploaded, but maybe it's the 4th. Hopefully it's not the 5th. So Happy New Year! I thought that in front of the fire would be a cozy place to film this video, but I'm realizing it doesn't look good on screen. I'm just gonna sit here anyways, because I'm all set up. So I'm here to give you my top 10 favorite books of the year and my top 10 least favorite. I'm gonna do the worst books first to start out the year on a wonderfully negative note. And I'm also gonna give each worst book a special little award. So coming in at number 10 on my shit list is one that's gonna probably get me in trouble right away. And that is Chlorine by Jade Song. We are following a girl named Ren who's a competitive high school swimmer who also not so secretly thinks that she's actually a mermaid. And she's kind of just biding her time, waiting until she can be like thrust into the water and leave all the normies behind. And if you watched the reading vlog that I read this during, you might have seen this coming, but I gave this book the Damp Holden Caulfield Award because, oh my god, this girl can whine. She complains, even for a teenager. I understand teenagers are annoying, but even for a teenager, she complains so much. She is so whiny. So many people love this book, so it's most likely just a me thing. But, well, it got a little bit gruesome in like the back 20%. There was so much less horror and fantasy and like mermaidness than I thought that there would be, and way too much about the high school swim team. Number 9 on my list is the Shades of Magic Steel Prince graphic novel, which gets the most unfair to put on a least favorites list award. The only reason that it's here and it got such a low rating is because it's the first and only graphic novel or comic book I've ever read, and it's what helped me realize that I'm not a graphic novel comic book type of bitch. So I shan't be talking any more shit here about this. Number 8 on my list is The Book of Goose by Yi-Yun Lee, and this is the third and final book that I'm gonna give the "it's not the book, it's me" disclaimer to. This is absolutely a beautiful book. It's very well written. It just wasn't my cup of tea. Actually, I lied. There is one more book further down the list that has a it's not the book, it's me
System failure. System failure.
stamp on it. The Book of Goose is about two young girls who live in a rural town in the French countryside in the early 20th century. They have this toxic friendship, and through that they basically devise this side quest to write a book together that becomes internationally well known and leads to fame and wealth for one of the girls. This book wins the Validating My Childless Existence award because these girls are scary. They lie and manipulate the people around them to get whatever they want, whenever they want, even when it leads to perhaps legal consequences for innocent people. If I was a diagnostician, I might say that one or both of them maybe has a little bit of sociopathy. This is not a spoiler. It's not even like a real plot point of the book, but one of the girls, their brother dies, and the girl does not care even an ounce. So, good book, not for me. Now let's get on to the real roasting. Let's really talk some shit. Number 7 on my list is The Book of Doors by Gareth Brown. This is a book about a girl named Cassie who lives this small, quiet life in New York. She works at a used bookshop. Her favorite customer at the bookshop dies, and she's accidentally bequeathed this special magic book called The Book of Doors that allows her to open any door that she touches and come out the other side through any other door anywhere else in the world. So I could open my bedroom door and I could walk out the other side into a restaurant restaurant in Tanzania. Eventually, this leads her to trouble and violence because bad guys want the book, blah, blah, blah. This book should have been so great. There's portal fantasy, there's travel, it should be everything that I want, but it went so wrong in such key areas. The pacing was off, the plot points didn't always make sense. There are more nitpicky editing side complaints that I have, like the British author having his American characters use British terms for American things. But the one that wheedled under my skin the most is the fact that this book gets the most regressive women portrayed in book form award. We have a male author, Gareth Brown. What? Gareth Brown. We have a male author who is having his female characters speak as though they are characters straight out of a 2004 rom-com. Cassie and her best friend Izzy have just discovered that they have this incredible magic book that allows them to step from their apartment straight out into the streets of Paris. And they're instantly having internal monologues and external dialogues about how they can't eat the carbs and they can't eat the croissants because they're getting fat. Cassie complains about the size of her thighs at least thrice. There is more I want to bitch about, but I can't because of spoilers. But I'll link the reading vlog down below if you want to hear that, because I went on like a 5-minute spoiler rant tangent. So if you're interested in seeing me lose my mind a little bit, I'll put it in the description. I'll put it down below. Number 6 on the worst list is a twofer. Daughter of the Pirate King and Daughter of the Siren Queen by Trisha Levenseller. These are about a pirate girl? A pirate? What the fuck are these about? These are about 17-year-old pirate captain Alosa, who is on a mission to retrieve pieces of a treasure map that will lead her to a massive elusive treasure. We got there. We got there. Okay, I have so little to say about these books because they're such puffy nothings. These are the equivalent of the mid-movies that I love so much, except I enjoy those a lot more. Being a mid-book is a much bigger sin than being a mid-movie, but the award that these books get are best filler books for exactly that reason. Because they were the perfect puffy nothings for me to read while I could only half pay attention when I was sleeping on my office floor with the stray pregnant dog that I found on the freeway. I was so brain dead during those 10 days, and I so desperately needed puffy little nothings to keep my half-working brain occupied. So they were what they needed to be when they needed to be that. Speaking of puffy little nothings, number 5, also known as Wendy Darling by A.C. Wise. This wins the least memorable book award because I remember virtually nothing about this. And to be fair, this was also during the aforementioned pregnant stray debacle, so my brain was almost fully shut down. So the best I can do is we follow Wendy post Neverland when she's put into a mental health facility because no one believes her stories about fairies and pirates and lost boys. And then we have a time jump and Wendy's an adult with a family and kids of her own. Peter comes back, kidnaps her daughter, and then she has to go get her daughter back because it turns out that Peter Pan is an evil little Is that all? That's it, I got that. We are still deeply in mid territory, which is fine because luckily that means that I didn't read too many like truly awful books this year. And truth be told, this and the pirate books, they could flip-flop on the list and it would all mean the same thing. Number 4 on the list is The Night Guest by Hildur Knudstottir, which pisses me off because this should have been an absolute fucking banger. We are following this woman in Iceland who wakes up exhausted every morning, is gaslit by her doctors, is convinced she's either dying or going crazy, and then accidentally via Fitbit finds out that she's been walking miles and miles every night when she should have been fast asleep. This could have absolutely knocked it out of the park for me. This could have been the creepiest shit ever, but it was so bland and dry. The words and the dialogue, nothing was imbued with enough emotion. It didn't make me feel enough emotion. And by the time the deeply unsatisfying ending came around, I was touched maybe 5% by it. I just didn't care. I should be feeling her horror. I should be feeling her grief that she's been dealing with since before the start of the book, but instead I felt nothing. And this gets the should have been a movie award, or should in the future be a movie award, because I could absolutely see someone like Robert Eggers or Guillermo del Toro absolutely killing this as an adaptation. Or maybe Ari Aster. Maybe. Number 3 is where I start to get angry, because number 3 was one of my most anticipated books of the year, and she let me down. Coup de Grace by Sophia Ajram is about a man named Vicken who decides to end his own life, but when he steps off the subway at the station where he's gonna go forward with that plan, he finds himself in a labyrinthine, hellscape, never-ending nightmare palace. This sounds cool as shit. This sounds so sick. Unfortunately, it suffers from extreme word salad syndrome. Big words for the sake of big words, instead of big words because it makes sense in the context of the book, which it doesn't. There was also an insanely gimmicky formatting choice used at the end of the book that I would have loved 15 years ago, but I do not in 2024. Also, the author explicitly compares one character's deal with depression with another character's terminal cancer diagnosis. And as someone who has dealt with a very extreme form of depression for a very long time, and as someone who has also watched a life be devoured by cancer, I would love to say, go f yourself. Anyway, this book wins the Most Life-Affirming Blowjob Award because in the first few pages, Vicken has a sexual encounter so special that he reconsiders ending his own life. Number 2 on my shit list is Juniper and Thorn by Ava Reed, which I believe was the very first book I ever complained about on this channel. So it's kind of special. And I cannot believe that that was in 2024. I genuinely feel like I read this book 45 years ago. My exact words in that video were, I do not vibe with this book on any level, and I stand by that. This book is about Marlin Chin and her 2 sisters whose only personality traits are being hot and mean, and they're low-level witches who live with their asshole father in a town beset by mysterious murders and xenophobia. I wasn't made to feel connected to any of the characters in this book. I was actually actively rooting for the deaths of a few characters that I think I was supposed to like. It was also a gross book, and not at all in a fun way, which leads me to the fact that Juniper and Thorn wins the Least Friendly to Emetophobics award. So if you have emetophobia, I've said it before, I'll say it again, don't read this book. If you loved this book, I would genuinely love for you to comment below and tell me why. Thank you. And finally, we come to our number 1 spot, which I feel guilty about. First of all, because it's another example of it's not the book, it's me syndrome. And secondly, because this book was sent to me by a subscriber. I'm sorry. And yes, it is Paradise by Fernanda Melchor. And obviously this is a me thing because Fernanda Melchor is an internationally lauded author who has won so many awards for her books, and I'm a dumb photographer who doesn't know shit. Compared to her, I'm illiterate, but I'm here to bestow another award, and that is the Cell Block Tango Award. Let's see how many of you are musical theater nerds. That is a reference to a song from Chicago in which 6 women who murdered their husbands sing about how no judge or jury would ever convict them because their husbands were such pieces of shit that everyone would agree, yeah, he had it coming. You were right to kill him. He sucked. You're fine. You're totally fine. And I'm convinced that I could murder the characters in these books and I would be applauded for it. Paradise is about 2 teenage boys, one of whom lives in a gated community and one of whom works in that gated community. They each hate their own lives and they both have very skewed perspectives of right and wrong and what they are owed and what they deserve. One boy is obsessed with his wealthy neighbor and concocts plans to commit crimes against her, to take what he believes he deserves and what he believes he is owed. I have never read a book with such vile words coming from the mouths and thoughts of the characters. But this is what I mean when I say it's not the book, it's me. We're supposed to hate the characters. We are supposed to be reviled and disgusted by these 2 boys. I just didn't enjoy my time hating them. That is all. And now we get to move on to my top 10 best books of the year. And these won't be getting special awards, but I will tell you what role I think I would thrive in if I magically got sucked into each book. Number 10 on our hits list is The Crypt of the Moon Spider by Nathan Ballingrud. We are in a reality where we have conquered space travel by the 1920s, and our main character Veronica is brought to a mental health facility on the moon by her dick husband, who basically thinks she's hysterical because she has melancholy, aka chronic depressive issues. Once she's there, she's supposed to have this lobotomy-like procedure where basically the bad parts of her brain are scooped out like ice cream and replaced by ancient moon spider webbing, which will weave itself in to the scooped out parts and fix her brain and make her the happy little wife her husband wants. Obviously, things don't go according to plan and shit gets chaotic really fast. This was a perfectly atmospheric little gothic sci-fi horror novella. It's very small. It's extremely disturbing, more so because of the medical procedures than any of the actual violence. And the writing is stunning, and it makes me want to read more from Nathan Ballingrud, which is great because it turns out that this is going to be a trilogy. I don't know why more people haven't read this book, and I'm urging each and every one of you to go pick this up. And if I was magically dropped in this book, I think I would thrive as a chaos-inducing patient. I have the mental illness required to be admitted to the facility in the first place. And once shit hits the fan, I think I would do really well as a kind of cosmic cult leader. Number 9 is another novella, a bit of a cosmic horror, and that is A Short Stay in Hell by Stephen L. Peck. We're following Soren, who wakes up in Hell's waiting room after he dies, and he's told that he chose the wrong religion in life, and so he has to go through the trials of his own personalized hell before he can move on. And his own personal purgatory consists of a library with an infinite number of books in it, basically. There's a book with every conceivable possible combination of numbers and letters and symbols in it, and his task is to find the book that contains the story of his life to a T, out of zillions upon zillions of books. That's all I'm gonna tell you because the book is so short, but this is another book that I'm surprised more people haven't read because I think a lot of people would really love this, especially if you love weird horror. This is funny and heartbreaking and filled with existential dread, and I think I would thrive if I was dropped into this book because I would simply give up. You're well provided for in this hellscape. There are other people to meet, beds to sleep in, magic machines that can spit out any type of food that you can imagine instantly. So I would just give up. I'd give up, find some friends, live in hell, and eat good food for eternity. Number 8 is a book that I just finished, and that would be Monstrillo by Gerardo Samano Cordova. This is a literary horror about a young boy who passes away, and then his mother cuts out a chunk of his lung, feeds it, and eventually that grows into a child. This is a really slow, beautiful book on the destructive nature of grief in all its many forms, denial versus acceptance of one's true self, and the many ways in which people can be monstrous. I think the only reason that this book isn't higher on the list is because I wanted it to be longer. I wanted more from each of the 4 perspectives that we get. I read the entire thing, minus like the first 20 pages, in one sitting because I just couldn't stop reading it, and I think it was to my detriment because I didn't allow it to slowly seep into me like it should have. If I was dropped into this book, I actually do not think I would thrive. I do not handle grief well, so I would probably just lose my mind and then die. But if I didn't, I would want to cuddle the little monster man. Look how cute he is. Numbers 7 and 6 are pretty interchangeable on this list, and I read both of them thanks to Books and Lala and her book clubs. So thank you, Kayla, for shoving these books into my existence. I actually gave number 7 a higher star rating than number 6, but I had more fun reading number 6, and I still think about it a lot, and this is my list, and these are my rules. That being said, number 7 is The God of the Woods by Liz Moore, which is about a girl who goes missing from a summer camp. Her family lives on the grounds of this summer camp, and her brother went missing from the same camp 15 years prior. These are unprecedented times we're living in because I never read mystery thriller books. So for me to not only give one a 5-star, but also to have it in my top 10 books of the year is crazy. But I think the setting was just too perfect for me. My parents met while they were working at a summer camp, and then I wound up going to that same summer camp after I was born, and that summer camp is where all of my happiest childhood memories live. It probably helps that instead of just like a straight across mystery book, this was very much a literary mystery. This book is dripping with family drama, nostalgic childhood vibes, creepy dark woods, and it's very much about women's voices being silenced through years of trauma, neglect, generational issues, shitty familial relationships. I think if I were launched into this book, I would thrive the most either as a supporting player camper, just a random little kid at camp who has nothing to do with the main plot and is just like having a chill time at summer camp, or as one of the crazy wealthy bitches who is completely out of touch with reality and like too rich to function. Nothing to do but drink champagne and spend money. I think I'd be really, really good at just drinking champagne and spending money. And number 6 is Fantastic Land by Mike Bakoven. This is by no means a better book than anything else on the list. It is deeply unserious, but I had such a fun time reading it, and for some reason, this, above anything else on the list, is the book that I keep thinking about and have continually thought about through the year. Fantastic Land is about a hurricane that rips through Florida, and like 300 employees are stranded at this huge Disney World type theme park. They're left there for 5 or 6 weeks, and the employees almost immediately go feral and start killing each other. It's like Lord of the Flies at Disneyland. I think I would thrive in this book by A, once again becoming a cult leader and heading a group of murderous teenagers, or B, I would lock myself in a restaurant and just sit alone and eat corn dogs for 6 weeks until we got rescued. Number 5 on the GOAT list is Sunburn by Chloe Michelle Howarth, and I do not hear enough people talking about this book. Why is no one talking about this book? When did you come out? It came out in 2023. And no one is talking about it. This is a quiet coming-of-age novel about Lucy, a young girl in Ireland who is learning about her identity and how she fits into the world as a singular person and not how her identity pertains to other people. And at the same time, she's also realizing that she is a girl who happens to like other girls. This book is the pinnacle of sapphic yearning. She falls in love with one of her best friends and speaks about her like she's a god, like she's a deity who is just temporarily shining her light on Lucy. There are a lot of parallels between the fervency of religion and the fervency of love and lust, especially when you're a teenager. And overall, Sunburn is about the wide swath of different kinds of relationships that 2 girls or 2 women can have. Alongside the romance and the friendship, we also see Lucy's relationship with her own mother as she navigates hardships and learns what unconditional love can and can't be. I also cannot talk about this book without talking again about the most incredible opening line I have ever heard. Oh, my autofocus is off. I'm gonna put it up on the screen. Now is the time between birth and slaughter. Come on. And I think I would thrive if I was transported into this book because I'd be living in Ireland and I genuinely don't need anything other than that. Number 4 is the most unique book I've read this year, and that is Open Throat by Henry Hoke. This is about a mountain lion with human sentience living in a park in LA. The book is written from the perspective of the mountain lion, who thinks in this stilted, almost staccato manner, and they are quietly observing the human world around them while trying to survive in that human world, which is filled with humans who want the mountain lion dead just because they see it as other and different and therefore scary. The lion has thoughts that are so simple and brief, but so poignant and painful that they leave you speechless, staring into space, trying to grapple with your thoughts. There is a lot of commentary about humans being preoccupied with hollow bullshit and not caring enough about the things that actually matter. And I think I would thrive in this book because I am delusional, and I believe that I would befriend the mountain lion and we'd live happily together in the wild. Now we have a little 3.5 in here, which is various books from the series. Oh God, you're gonna know something. Various books from the series that I've been reading all year and not telling you about. And I'm still not telling you about them. Just know that this is where those books would fit in. Right in there. It'll be another month or 2 before that reading vlog comes out. And I think I would thrive in these books because once again, I'm delusional. And I'd like to think that I would have special magic powers. Number 3 on my list is something that I don't feel I need to expound upon, and that is Dune by Frank Herbert. I was so scared of reading this book for so long, and now that I'm through it, I have no idea why. The book is incredible, the world is incredible, the movies are incredible, which is a feat because I'm usually kind of judgmental with adaptations. Everybody knows what Dune is, so I'm not gonna explain it, but I actually don't think I would thrive in this world. I am not strong, and I have temperature regulation issues, so Arrakis would be a hellscape for me. But If I had to live in this book, I would be one of feyd-Rautha's darlings, and we would love each other carnally, and he would feed me his enemies.
That should be me holding your
fresh meat.
Number 2 on my list is once again a series of books, and I had to do this because otherwise the whole list would just be from one series of books, and that would not be fun. And that is the Wayward Children series by Seanan McGuire. I've been talking about these books since the very first video I made on this channel, and I will keep talking about them until I rot away. The series follows kids who have literally physically slipped through the cracks and found themselves in another world, like Alice in Wonderland, like Narnia. Some of them accidentally wind up slipping back into our world, and then they wind up at Eleanor West's School for Wayward Children, where they await a time where they're hopefully allowed to go back through the portal into their perfect realm, world, place. And I know I'm saying the word kids a lot. These are not children's books. These are the perfect portal fantasy novellas. Most often they're pretty dark and disturbing, but they're always at least a little bit whimsical. The perfect amount of whimsy. And Seanan McGuire releases a new one of these every January, which means I have T-minus 6 days until my ass is in that Barnes & Noble checkout line. I would thrive so hard if I fell into one of these books, because my ass would be portal hopping and never coming back. I would wind up in some magical land where I could breathe underwater and the dogs could talk and I'd stay there forever. And finally, my number 1 book of the whole year is This Is How You Lose a Time War by Amal El-Mohtar and Max Gladstone. I'm convinced this is the most romantic book ever written. Don't get me wrong, it's a sci-fi book, but in actuality, it is a passionate, yearning romance disguised as a sci-fi book. We are following 2 characters known only as Blue and Red, 2 rival agents in a war that stretches through the vast reaches of space and time. Each of them belongs to a separate agency of sorts, and each is moving back and forth through time to rewrite history in accordance with what would be best for their agency and their future timelines. They come across each other's work, and they start writing letters to each other that start out as taunting, but quickly turn to grand admissions of love and admiration. And when I say writing letters, I'm not talking about like pen and paper. Red will leave Blue a letter written in the rings of a 1,000-year-old tree. And then Blue will write one back using the ashes of a doomed world. You get to experience their love blooming and unfolding across space and time and dimensions and worlds. This is poetry. It's the absolute pinnacle of love and yearning. I have seen people DNF this in the first few pages because they didn't understand what was going on. But that's the whole point. No one knows what's going on in the first few pages. Oh, and I would thrive the absolute hardest in this book. I could be a time agent. I could sink Atlantis and then write a love letter in the sea foam. I could yearn across space and time. And there you have it. My top 10 and bottom 10 books of 2024. I am so thrilled for that hell year to be over. And now we all get to start new and fresh in 2025. And I get to be delusional and pretend like my health is gonna be normal for once. I am proud of us for all pushing through whatever the f it was that all of us needed to push through in the past year. Anyone watching this, we've all made it to this space and time right now. Incredible. Round of applause. Let's all be happier and healthier in 2025. That's the goal. Just be happy, be healthy. That's all I care about. Anyway, let's f***ing end this. Thank you for being here. Thanks. What? Thanks, partner. If you can hear me, if you can read the subtitles, thank you so much for being here. I love you so much. My voice is getting hoarse. Bye. Egg didn't grace us with her presence during the video. I'll bring her to you now. Say hi. There you go. There you go. There's a New Year egg. Thank you. She's very sleepy. Okay, bye. Shades of Magic, Prince. Number 8 on my list is the Book of Goose. Number 2 on my shit list is okay. Moon Spider Wedding. Spider Wedding. Very first video I made on this channel, these channels, and some of them wind up. Book of the year is Jesus Christ. Each of them belongs to a separate agency of source. What? Each of them belongs to a separate, and each of them is moving